Uh, Welcome. So we're going to be talking a little bit of Web2 and Web3 from the design perspective. So yes, we are going to talk a little bit about design. It's not a topic on this conference, that's why I have to adjust a little bit my slides. But I hope it's going to be a fun ride for you guys now. So every talk about design needs to have an Apple reference. This is mine. We all know this as a classic. And we all love this hello from Apple. So hello, my name is Nuno. I came from Lisbon, Portugal, all the way to talk a little bit about design. This is my city, sunny Lisbon, by the ocean on the other side of the globe. English is not my first language, so I might be really nervous about speaking in English, but bear with me a little bit. I might do some typos and some stuff, so bear with me, sorry about that. Quick intro, so I'm a lead designer at Ethereum.org for Ethereum Foundation. This is mostly where I work on every day. Ethereum.org is an open source, community-driven platform that aims to learn and onboard everyone to Ethereum. This is what we have been doing for a while now. I joined the team one year and something, and we do have a lot of pages, and we are community driven, mostly on codes, on content, on design. And one other thing that is really important is about translation. So I would take this opportunity to highlight that some of the pages need translation, and we want help from everyone. If you want to join the community, if you want to help a little bit, just go on our Discord, go on Ethereum.org, there's a bunch of pages to learn how to help. This is a good example that the learn about Ethereum is not even translated in your own language here. So be sure that you can help a little bit, you can onboard and be able to help others within the ecosystem. Again, you have pages that is not translated again to help people to jump into our Discord and help a little bit. Okay, to the topic. We all have been seeing these three axes divided. So we believe that we are transitioning from Web2 to Web3 at some point. Where are we now, and how can we learn from Web2 to Web3, and mostly how not to do the same mistakes again. I put up a bunch of words to try to describe the evolution of the web from my perspective. And I did not want to do a full statement of what is Web3 comparing to the other ones, but I think it's an evolution. And you can see that it's once you read and write, and then you read, write, own, that's mostly the most important one. Being a foundation, when you build a house, imagine like a house, a foundation, it's where you build, where everything started. On Web2, we get walls, and on Web3, you could have a window, a roof, where everything starts to be cozy. So we can have, on Web 1, it was mostly on desktop, Web 2 was mostly on mobile, and I think Web 3 was mostly on keys, like in the broader sense that it's something that we believe that it's on our side. On the second one, ingenuity, it's more like everything was built out of naive knowledge and was rustled around. Web 2 was a lot on venture, so venture capital drive Web 2 to where we believe it is, and I think Web 3 is based on community. That's the main drive of it. So it's reserved, selfish, rewarding, to inform, to publish, to sign, to connect, to log in, or to have a contract. So those terms try to make a stand on how those three phases of the web as we know it are divided to. Visually, I kind of did a small example of how did they go, like it's one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. I think this diagram tries to explain on a visual metaphor that how can we perceive what is Web3 and how can we take the most advantage of what is Web3 for all of us, and will help us build a better web. In adoption, this is like a rough estimate, doesn't mean anything, but the adoption line, we are still on the beginning, so we still need a lot of work to do, a lot of building to do, a lot of technical hurdles we'll have to overcome, so might at some points, everything that we are building today might be different in 1 year, There's a lot of things, new protocols, new things coming up, but we need to have a sense that what we are doing today can have an impact later on, and some decisions, and focus on design decisions, you'll see that they will have some impact and they will endure longer. And one example is this one. Do you remember what this is? Did you all use this? Probably some of you are not old enough to use this. I did use this. And we used to save before hard drive things on this small device. And now, as you see, we all use the same icon. When you want to save something, we use the same icon, even knowing that the same artifact is no longer in use, and it's a rare thing, it's a vintage thing at this point. And there's a lot of folks that do argue that we should use different icons. But at this point, it became a pattern. It became a user's pattern. And this was a design decision. Somewhere in the 80s, someone say, okay, I use this icon to represent I'm saving something. And even today, 20 years later, we still use that. So imagine that could happen, and the most thing to wallets. We now perceive a wallet being an icon of physical wallets, and we use that in our own interfaces right now. Probably in 10 years from now, the word wallet might not even exist, but we might use the icon to represent what is a wallet, and might be completely different what the wallet looks like today. So this is a good example of how we use design decisions on today, and they might endure a little bit later. So we have to be careful about that. This is mostly be aware that we have to be cautious about some decisions. So if I had an alternative title to my talk would be, how did we mess up? And I'd say we because I'm old enough to be on Web 2. And I do remember building the whole thing, how we messed up on Web 2 and how not to mess up for Web 3, and that learnings be important. So I will focus mostly on accounts, wallets, and security for the small part of the talk. I think it was the right audiences, the right targeting to focus on that, so I changed my slides a little bit. And we always take this as, to begin with, we all agree that we need to improve our experience on Web3. So that's a common ground for everything. And we as designers need to step up to agree on something and to step up a little bit our game to create better experiences. We all endure roughly things, and I will give you an example of one thing that we are doing that is a really mess up. Do you know what this is? We all use these kind of screens when you want to log in Web 2 screens, and this is really bad. This is what we call back in the days an hash card interface, because we do use all the different logos to sign in. This is bad. This is decision fatigue for people. This is silo dependence. This is centralizing the login, the experience. Like if I'm using one service, I'll be depending on that service. Twitter, with the new Twitter from Elon Musk, they killed the sign-in with Twitter, and it was a mess for the ones that had account login for third parties using those kind of things. So this is a bad example how we messed up in Web 2. And what are we doing? Exactly the same thing. We are doing the same mistakes again. Because we are doing silos again. We are using branding. We are using, oh, use this or use that to be on board. And we need to be careful about this. Probably will be different again. Later on, probably we'll have some sort of sign-in with Ethereum, might be unified. Let's work all together on this. But this is a good example of how can we not do the same mistakes that we did in the past. And because it's a UX pattern, like, okay, let's put a bunch of buttons. Okay, you want to log in which wallet do you own? And it's bad. This is decision fatigue. When try to be your first time using some sort of service and encounter this kind of thing. What would be your decision? Like you lost 0.5% of your users just based on this, because it will be their first experience on Web3. So main takeaways from this part is like we need to work together and agree on standards, agree on how to use and open the process. Like focus on the journey. It's not because others are doing like we did in the past, because it's established patterns, but focus on those, on how we can do better and how can we agree on doing better. Not because I'm doing and I'm a big corp on Web3 or the other are different projects, smaller projects, and need to use the same patterns. I think we can improve that experience a lot. So let me just take a speed up. Yeah, this was just a small pause. Like, we all know this. This is my daily life. We all know some of those things can be tough. So for the second part, I think focus a little bit on security. I think we on Web2, we're always targeting how easy to use are the services. How can we do a one-click kind of onboarding, like one click and you're in, like so easy. And we count the number of logins or the number of users we've converted. I think we need to rethink our metrics for Web3. We need to rethink how to use this. And one example that I will focus now is like when you use the username password way of login to a service. And some of the wallets right now are falling back to username and password because it's a known pattern. It is not necessarily a good one. So this is just a quick way of showing that we force users to use complex passwords to log in when we could just learn how to use a seed phrase. A seed phrase instead of a complex password, it's a lot safer, it's a lot better, and for us as humans, a lot easier to memorize than a random thing with characters. Like, give me 16 characters, but just 2, 4, 6, 8 phrases, words in one seed phrase. So why didn't we help users to begin with? Why did we make it so complex for folks to have a password? Like, it can be more secure. Now we have to amend things using password managers, second factor authentication. So we have to use a lot of different things when you could make it a lot easier. And this is a design problem. This is not an engineer problem. We as designers, as UX designers, did this wrongly to begin with. We didn't understand that we could make easier interfaces for folks if they had access to the knowledge of, okay, if I memorize 5 words and put it all together, it's a lot easier to onboard, to memorize the password and to be able to log into a service. So why don't we use this? So this is a bad UX, and some of the wallets right now are working on defaulting from seed phrases and try to put on top of it smart contracts that are blinded by username and password. And I'm arguing that not a good thing. So after all, seed phrases can be good, and I might say that even private keys, public keys are a good thing. They are secure. They are a good way. Why don't we educate, why don't we guide users to understand what those are, in a sense that they could learn from it, improve the experience, and be more aware of the risks of using those. So we need to guide users on how to use it, best practice, probably not use the jargon, not use complex words that most of the normal users don't know and need to Google something to understand what they are thinking about. So I will give you a small example of a metaphor that might be a little bit too much, but I will try to simplify as much as we can. But so we all learn how to drive. We need to have a license how to drive, right? We need to go have driving schools. We have to learn a common ground, not to like put others in risk, not put myself in risk. So we need to learn signs from streets. They are universal, right? Everyone needs to understand this to be able to drive. So we are guiding towards a technology that has its risks, that is dangerous for people to work with. So we need to create a momentum of how to teach them to use these kind of tools, to use DeFi, to use dApps, to use wallets, to use all that thing. They need to understand the risks. And probably it's a communication problem, it's a design problem above all. And this learning, this is an example too extreme, but I'm not saying that we need to take a license to use Web3, of course, but we need to be sure that folks knows the risks. If I do something wrong, I might lose my funds, I might lose my NFT, I might lose whatever I have value in there. A mistransaction, what happens if a transaction just goes through? What can I retry it? Can I not retry it? So it's always try and error, and I think you can simplify a lot that throughout the process. And above all, that's a design problem. So my main takeaways in here is that the learning curve can be a delightful experience in the sense that we can design a learning journey for the users. They don't need to be on board in one click. They do not need to use your app just by, okay, convert, helping, I need to transfer funds from one chain to another chain, or from one wallet to another wallet. This is like, let's do it. Let's take it easy. Take one step back. Understand what's the struggles from the user and make the interfaces work better for the users and not better for the business itself. And that's the difference between Web2 and Web3. And about responsible, like each user needs to be responsible for what they use. Like we all have keys for our houses. We don't give up the keys from our house to a stranger. Like we don't give up a lot of these things. We need to be aware that there's risks using this technology. And once you're aware of that, I think we all can work towards a better future. They don't need to understand all the details. Like you can abstract some of the chain complexity, but they do need to understand some parts of it. Again, for the car metaphor, you don't need to know how an engine works in detail, but you need to know how a brake works, how a steering wheel works, how to put air on a tire. Those things, all of us in society needs to understand those in order to go about and to drive, or to be able to understand how things work. For Web3, I think we need to start doing the same. We need to understand a little bit more of what's involved, what's the risks, what's in it. It cannot be just simple social media, post something and like something. There's a lot more value involved, a lot more risks involved that we all need to be aware of that. That's mostly my message for you guys today. We do have new technology coming out. We do have a new blank canvas coming in, which it's account abstraction. This is like a rough notepad that I took from account abstraction on security and onboarding. Mostly, we can redefine the user journey using account abstraction when all the features will be available and all of us on dApps, all of us on wallets can start using them. So this is, again, rethinking the process using new technology that will come out really, really soon, and we all might enjoy better experiences. This is one example of how can we improve the journey. And just to finish my talk, yesterday Vitalik conclusions was this slide, and just to be sure that I was targeting the right thing, this was what I am trying to pitch more. It's the last one. We need to adopt the better UX for our products. So let's learn from the past, improve the future. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed. It's a little bit different topic, and thank you so much.
Questions?
Regarding seed phrases, have you seen a seed phrase system that works for an international audience that mainly uses a non-Latin alphabet?
I did not. And that's the real problem to onboarding to be more accessible, for sure. But seed phrases can be random phrases. You know that you just need to memorize something. They don't need to mean anything. If you're aware of Latin characters, at least a little bit, you can memorize that, even knowing that they don't have a meaning. It's not the same thing, I know. It's not the same thing. But you're true. It should be more accessible, for sure.
Hi, I'm still kind of new in the industry, and I kind of feel the most difficult thing for me to understand was the wallet. And I realized that now I get to know a little bit more. Wallet, the term wallet is actually for me is very limited understanding towards what a wallet really is. So I think for me it's more like an avatar. What do you think wallet really is? Or how can we redesign wallet for a newbie to understand faster?
Wallets will evolve to be accounts, above all. And account abstraction will be that. So wallets, the term wallets was not a good term to begin with. That's the beginning of the talk when I'm talking about the diskette thing. It's just because of that. We use wallets because tokens are coins, and coins are inside wallets. But we've never hold coins in our wallets like we do the money itself. It's always on chain. So the wallet by itself it's not a good metaphor to begin with. So it was bad to begin with. The same way it constrains your perception of what is a wallet, it still misuses a lot of our perception because we are used to a wallet holds money in it and it's on my pocket. It's not true. A wallet is not that. But with account abstraction, that will evolve to be an account. You will have some sort of account. Either you could call it, someone will argue that will be a smart account. Smart account because you can do a lot of different things, but the evolution towards signing in with Ethereum might be one way to solve this problem. Because we will start to sign in with Ethereum or sign in with your wallet, and it will start to be an account mostly, and not a wallet. That's what I think will happen in the future. And might help you, might help other users as well.
Right. Okay. An account it is then. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
You've mentioned that there's like a need for better standardization amongst like lists of crazy numbers of wallets and all those kinds of things. How do we get there? Because it seems like the path that we've like, there are calls to actions from people like you, but how do we go from this world now where it just seems like the default is N+1 standards as opposed to just having like everything unify? Like, do you see a better path than just hoping for it or calling for it?
Yeah. There's no right answer to that. There's not one way. But I think we are at the point to start debating on that and start to do workshops. One thing that I was talking with someone yesterday, that probably we need to start have design hackathons to solve those problems, and not just technical hackathons. We can solve a lot of problems and new ideas for new business on hackathons like the one that happened before this and all the hackathons that you've been to it. But there's not that many designers on hackathons, and probably don't solve these kind of things. And we need to agree on standards. We all the web was built upon standards. We all agree that HTML is one standard, like everything is based on standards. And we do use those standards to evolve the roadmap. EIPs are standards. Like we do a spec, they evolve. We need to do the same for the wallets or whatever that is, that we'll agree on one way of doing things. And we all should use that one thing. I think that might be the way with signing with Ethereum, but I'm not sure.
Hey, thank you for the sharing. So I was wondering, you as a designer, what is your view about the ability for users to make mistake in onboarding, right? Like, because in blockchain there is this concept about irreversibility, immutability. You make a mistake, it's gone for, right? But in Web2, sometimes you can ask for a refund. Things can be reverted and feel a certain sense of security. But in Web3, when a new user approaches, it always feels it's an atomic mistake, right? That really you can lose everything. And that thing really scares a lot of people. So just wanted to hear your thoughts about that topic.
Yeah, that's a big evolution with account abstraction. I said when we get smart wallets, smart contract wallets, they will be able to have different mechanisms to ensure that kind of trust. Right now, imagine that we are in a phase like the beginning of stuff. It's still really raw. Like if I mistake giving you some funds, the funds will be locked someplace else, and I'll be doing a lot of mistakes. I think technology will help, but my main pitch here is that technology by itself, it's not enough. We still need to use really good user research, design research, whatever you want to call it, to provide that trust within the interface itself. So because when you open a wallet, like imagine MetaMask, and you press send and you sign something, like everyone gets butterflies on the stomachs, right? It's like everyone needs, like, okay, this is going through, like we go to Etherscan just to confirm it. We all do that. And that's an awful experience. So the experience by itself is not a technology, it's evolving, technology is solving the tech parts, but we need to solve that on the UX and design part as well. And all the dApps, all the ideas that we are all working on, DeFi mostly, needs to work on that as well. You need to be trustful. The interface needs to have some trustworthy interface by itself. Like if it is something full of emojis and unicorns jumping and all that stuff, does that give you trust to use that services? Like imagine someone like that it's used to use traditional finance and goes to a really boring website to do a bank transfer. And imagine that on Web3, it's just unicorns and emojis are all over the place. Is that a good thing? Like we need to ask ourselves these questions and be critical about it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, once again, thanks Nuno for giving us such an inspiring talk.